Welcome to the distance learning session for the Harmoniemesse, Sanctus and Benedictus. The hardest of the work is now behind us, but there's still some wonderful music to come. Unusually, the Sanctus is quite modest in proportion to the rest of the piece, and the soloists do half the work here. The whole of the first choir phrase in one breath, please, and very legato. As always, with phrases that end with the crotchet like this one, make sure the last note is a full crotchet. At A, when the choir sings for the second time, this time you are repeating the words, so we will take a quaver breath at the end of the second, fourth and fifth bars after A, after Deus, Sabaoth and Deus respectively. Again, some of this is for phrasing rather than because you need a breath. In the Allegro, a quick breath at the end of the fifth bar before the repeated Gloria. In the 11th bar of the Gloria, sops, please do not breathe before the Hosanna, breaking our normal rule about repetition of words, I know. At B, watch out for the first of several S's, which must be exactly together if it is not to sound messy. The S of cease exactly on the second beat, please. After B, the tenors and basses are singing in unison, but the notes are quite tricky here. Make sure that you've absorbed these dramatic leaps. So let's just have a look at that. So tenors and basses, I'm going to play your parts from 1, 2, 3 and a beat before B. So you get sort of fairly normal music leading into it. So this is from where you start singing Hosanna. Then it goes weird. So it's a sequence, but most of the steps there are an awkward leap. So, and also because this bit is more about a musical sequence than the words, in the fifth bar after B, T and B, please breathe before in excelsis, which you wouldn't normally do. The last page of the Sanctus has no breaths to mark in, but 3 times when the S of cease, excelsis, must be together. 11 bars and 7 bars from the end and the last note. Watch out for all those S's. The Benedictus is more extended than the Sanctus, and unusually for masses and for Haydn, it's fast rather than slow. I often think the Benedictus of masses can be a little dull in comparison to some of the other movements, but this is not so in this very joyous mass. Please note the Hosanna at the end of this is exactly the same as that at the end of the Sanctus. It's recorded on the video for completeness and so you can enjoy singing along, but there's no new work to do and nothing further to talk about. So I'm talking here about the Benedictus from the start to just after figure G. Always shape the words Benedictus towards the third syllable, Benedictus. You will find the harmonies work in this way too, with the most expressive harmony always being on the third syllable. And a bright vowel here, Benedictus, not Benedictus, okay? Almost Benedictus, but not quite. The breathing in this section is mainly a general rule here, you'll be pleased to hear. And the first phrase is a perfect example. Basically, if the words repeat, such at the end of the first bar, a quaver breath and the S together on the last quaver of the bar, then no breath where the words do not repeat. Benedictus qui venit in nomine. Then a quick breath or phrase off just before the repeat of in nomine in the third bar. This rule generally holds even in the more complicated passages later on. If the words repeat, take a breath. If not, don't. This will sometimes make for a longish phrase, such as the sops and basses in the 3 bars before B. But as it's at a fast speed, this should not be a problem. Just after C, watch out for the S and the T. Benedictus qui venit. Very precise. Almost treat those syllables or those consonants as separate syllables. Then there's a brief fugue style bit for the 14 bars with figure D in the middle of it. Same breathing rules apply here as before. Each part that comes in with the main tune here, the fugue subject, should be clearly heard. Watch out, altos, for the rhythms just before D. And here it is. You get Benedictus, Benedict. So watch out for that syncopation. A little while later, after Haydn gets bored with writing a fugue and stops before he's really got going with it, he brings the main tune back in unison, which is pretty well the opposite of a fugue. And then we get a new section from figure F. In the third bar of F, all watch out for the unexpected key change. Tenors and basses have to be very careful finding their notes here. So let me just play you that little sequence so you get the idea. I'm playing from the third bar of F. So this is starting with the sopranos and altos. And then suddenly you come in, I played the wrong soprano note, I'll play it again in a minute. Suddenly you come in on that key, having been... So everybody has to think about their notes here. Let's just listen to that again without my making a mistake. Okay, so be ready with those notes, particularly the tenors having to think about an E flat when the altos have just been singing an E natural a moment before. Then, after the solo bit, the choir comes back in for the last 3 bars before the Hosanna. Easy notes again, but again, only too easy to get the S's and T's in the wrong place, so be very careful. As I say, the Hosanna is identical to what we did at the end of the Sanctus. Haydn just copied and pasted on his computer. So, see you next week for the final session on the Harmoniemesse, the Agnus Dei.